talking about the art of being a contact professional. You know, if you look at the word contact, it comes from Latin, C-O-N, meaning with, and tact meaning what it means in English, skill, touch, in touch with. And what I teach cops and what I'd like to pass on to you today is the ability to make contact, to establish contact with people that may not wish to talk to you, to maintain that contact when it's in their interest to make you break it off, and to use contact to achieve professional purposes. And what I have is a little diagram so you can take it home with you. The bottom line is this: you stand between a rock and a hard place whenever you deal with people. Number one, if you're hired professionally to represent something other than yourself, you have to be an artist at representation. The ability to represent the organization, whatever it might be. It's a police department, it might be a studio, it might be a business. You have to speak in such a way as to represent the department to the subject that you're dealing with. And see, you're in the middle. The subject is in a box. This is the C for contact, the person you're contacting. But he's boxed because I believe that when you talk to most people, they're under the influence of something. Anxiety, expectation, fear, anger, liquor, rage, it doesn't matter. And your kids are the same thing. They come home and are filled with anxiety about what might have happened at school. So the box represents the various kinds of influences a person can be at any one time. And what I teach people to do is to represent the organization to the person you're particularly contacting, and to do it in such a manner, in such a way, right, as to bring them back into compliance. Whoosha! Bring them back into compliance. You understand what I'm talking about? So now we can say what good police speak is and what it isn't. Good police speak, for example, contributes to voluntary compliance. And ineffective police speak makes it more difficult. Hence calling people names, putting people down. See, I've read the Constitution over 600 times, and you know what? I can't find anywhere in there where it says you can badmouth people, racially epithet people, and put people down. I'm beginning to think it's not in there, which means that we've got to be better than that. Now, notice something. You've got to represent the organization, its philosophy of doing business, its products, right, to the customer in such a manner as to whoosha, and whoosha means take them out, right, accomplish the goal. In such a way as whoosha, bring them back into compliance. Now, make a note. All these things here, philosophy of doing business, products, a way of life, a city, whatever you happen to represent. Let me ask you something. If you look at this little drawing, what's happened to me, the contact professional, in the middle? In my drawing, have I not disappeared, basically? I'm basically obliterated. So you might want to make a note that if you want to be an effective communicator, you must get rid of ego. See, if you break, this is a figure eight. It's a symbol of the yin and the yang. All right? And you stand right in the middle. And if you break it over here, call a guy a name for you. Let me tell you something, right? You call a guy a name, you make it all the more difficult to generate voluntary compliance. You put your kids down personally, call them names, right? Tell them they're stupid. You've broken the figure eight. You get nothing but resistance that way. If you show too much ego, see, I'm a great believer that you got to put your ego, as I said earlier, into the job. Put your ego into the service. All right? You got to have some pride in what you do. You got to have pride. You can walk the walk and talk the talk. But of course, you see what I'm teaching here, don't you? Is how to walk your talk and talk your walk. The greatest skill of all, street talk. How to get done what has to be done. You understand? Now, so you must obliterate ego. Must obliterate it. See, in fact, this is a sign of great leadership as well. Great leaders stand between the organization and their particular team of people. And they have to represent the organization to their team in such a manner that those people will do what you want them to do when you're home in bed sick. Whoosha, bring them back, you understand? And you got to get rid of ego, and ego's destroying America. People climbing that ladder I mentioned earlier of success rather than success. You see, if I were a sergeant, for example, on a police department, right, I should, once I get those stripes, never again do anything to simply advance my simple little career. I must instead put my ego into my team. And as my team does well, of course I'll do well. But the moment I try to step on people's heads and shoulders, climb over people, badmouth people, and put people down, you see, I lose all my force. We're talking about great force here. We're talking about a tremendous force. You think of the people when you go to a store, how many of them just represent the organization? Well, I'm sorry, sir. That's our policy. No return of sale items. And you want to go like this, you know? That's not what you want to hear. You know why Nordstrom's became one of the top department stores in the world? Because they actually took clerks and turned their jobs into professional representatives, and they taught them to represent Nordstrom's philosophy of doing business and their products to the customer, and to do it in such a way as to get me not only to buy the shirt the first time, but want to go 12, 14, 24 miles out of my way to shop at a Nordstrom's rather than some other store that goes, thank you for shopping here, right, in those formulaic kinds of ways, if you know what I mean.